There are encounters that defy the logic of everyday life, breaking patterns and awakening dormant layers within us. When we are about to cross paths with someone who transforms everything, not only our choices, but even our perception of who we are, the universe seems to whisper signs. These omens, often subtle, herald not just an external meeting, but the beginning of an inner reunion. Carl Jung, in his exploration of the mysteries of the human psyche, revealed that what touches us most in another person is actually a summons to recognize ourselves. And when that person appears, everything around us shifts in tone, rhythm, and meaning. This video is for anyone who feels that something greater is on its way. Leave a comment below. I'm ready to recognize what destiny wants to show me. In Carl Jung's analytical psychology, significant encounters are not mere coincidences, but manifestations of the unconscious in search of balance and wholeness. When we approach the presence of someone capable of transforming our journey, the collective unconscious begins to reveal itself through symbols, dreams, and synchronicities. Jung believed that certain people are living archetypes on our path, mirrors that uncover hidden aspects of the psyche and activate our process of individuation. Projection is one of the most relevant mechanisms in this context. We project onto the other whatever we have not yet recognized in ourselves, whether qualities or wounds. When a transformative figure appears, they often carry the energy of the animus or anima, the inner masculine and feminine aspects that have yet to be integrated. These encounters awaken a strong attraction or even discomfort, not because the person is exactly what we imagine, but because they represent parts of our soul that yearn to emerge. The concept of the shadow also becomes central. What we hide or repress often surfaces in the presence of that remarkable figure. The relationship becomes a profound mirror, revealing both light and darkness. That is why these encounters are intense, destabilizing, and at the same time, deeply healing. True transformation happens when we stop expecting the other to save us and start integrating what they awaken in us. This is the essence of the individuation process, becoming whole, conscious of who we are, beyond masks and conditioning. There is a subtle kind of magic that begins to unfold when we are about to experience something deeply significant. Carl Jung named this phenomenon synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence that links external events with inner states of the soul. It is neither chance nor accident. It is a kind of invisible alignment between the inner world and the outer world. Before we meet someone who changes everything, this symbolic dance intensifies. Synchronicities arise as previews, as calls from the collective unconscious, signaling that something new is about to happen. Jung understood that synchronicity occurs when a deep psychic need finds expression in the outer world. For example, you keep thinking about a particular topic and suddenly hear someone speaking about it, or you dream of an unknown figure and days later meet someone who seems to carry that same energy. These episodes, when not ignored, put us in touch with deeper dimensions of existence and with what is yet to emerge in our individuation process. Before transformative meetings, synchronicity acts as a symbolic preparation. Small coincidences charged with emotion can leave us uneasy, as if something is approaching and demanding a new inner stance. Paying attention to these signs is an invitation to listen. The soul speaks through symbolism, in dreams, in unexpected encounters, in books that fall into our hands, in songs that seem written for that moment. Synchronicity calls us to awareness, to perceive that the present moment is rich with hidden meanings. These experiences intensify when the soul is ready to open. The encounter with someone able to transform us is not merely romantic or inspiring. It is psychic, mythic, archetypal. That figure appears when our unconscious senses we already have enough structure to receive and integrate the symbolic impact this relationship will bring. And before that, the field prepares. Coincidences multiply, dreams become more vivid, and we feel an emotional tension in the air as if something is about to be revealed. What many people don't realize is that these synchronicities are not just curious events, but guides. They indicate that we are approaching something crucial to our growth. Rather than trying to understand them rationally, Jung invites us to experience them. Synchronicity is the language of the soul, not of the linear mind. Therefore, when these signs begin to appear frequently, it is a call to become more conscious of our life situation, our unconscious desires, and the questions we are not verbalizing, but that are being answered symbolically. Meeting someone who changes everything doesn't begin on the day of the encounter. It starts much earlier, in the silence of dreams, in subtle intuitions, in thoughts that cross our minds, in the symbolic repetitions surrounding us. The inner universe begins to organize the outer world so that this encounter can occur. And when it finally happens, we feel as if we already knew that person, as if everything was part of a larger plan we didn't know existed, but that had been unfolding for a long time. Being attentive to synchronicities is like tuning your hearing to catch what was once noise. When we perceive that symbolic thread between the inner world and events, we understand that nothing is disconnected, and that great encounters are not works of chance, but destiny's responses to our inner readiness. Each sign is a whisper from the soul saying, "Something is approaching. Be alert." Few recognize that before a transformative encounter, the soul enters into conflict. An unease arises, an internal discomfort that has no name but feels weighty. It's as if something is out of place, even when everything seems fine externally. Carl Jung teaches us that this discomfort is the shadow's call, all that we repress, deny, or avoid in ourselves. And it is precisely when this shadow begins to stir that we are closest to a significant turning point. The shadow is not necessarily something evil. It comprises all parts of the psyche rejected for not fitting the image we have built of ourselves. It may include destructive impulses as well as forgotten talents, unacknowledged desires, or even luminous aspects that frighten us by challenging us. When we are about to meet someone who moves us profoundly, this unconscious material starts to emerge, generating tension, confusion, and often resistance. At that moment, symptoms appear: anxiety without an apparent cause, mood swings, a sense of estrangement from oneself, even sleep disturbances. This happens because the soul is preparing for the impact of an encounter that will bring to light everything that was hidden. The presence of this transformative figure, even before they appear, begins to provoke an inner reorganization. The shadow, sensing that something may make it visible, stirs. This process can lead to distancing from usual people, loss of interest in old routines, or unexpected impulses. Many interpret this as a crisis when it is actually a transition process. It's as if we're being emptied of what no longer serves us, so we can welcome a new dimension of experience. Discomfort is the unconscious's language signaling that something needs to be looked at, and soon. Jung invites us to dialogue with the shadow, to bring it into consciousness. It is not about eliminating it, but understanding and integrating it so it can participate in the wholeness of being. When we ignore these signs, we tend to project the shadow onto another. And that is exactly what happens in significant encounters. We see in the other what we have denied in ourselves. The attraction, admiration, fear, or aversion we feel are reflections of our own unconscious demanding recognition. Therefore, discomfort is a valuable sign. It announces that we are leaving a psychic comfort zone where the shadow lay dormant, moving to a new level of consciousness. This phase is not easy. There is confusion, doubt, the sense of losing control. But what is really happening is an internal reconfiguration. Something must die for something new to be born. The arrival of the person who changes everything accelerates this process, but the preparation begins silently, from within. Facing this discomfort as an invitation is essential. The soul prepares us for truly transformative encounters through internal friction. The figure who will impact us deeply is often the one who evokes our shadow, who makes us question our certainties, who shakes our most sensitive emotional structures. And this, far from being a problem, is a gateway. Every true transformation requires passing through the shadow. So when discomfort arises, instead of running away, listen. Ask yourself, what am I denying in myself? What is wanting to come to light? What do I need to let go of to make space for the new? These questions don't bring immediate answers, but open inner paths for the soul to reorganize. And when this preparation finds external expression in the other, there will be no turning back. The individuation journey will be in full swing, and each step will be a reunion with oneself. When we meet someone who seems to touch a deep, almost forgotten layer within us, we are not just facing another person, we stand before a symbolic mirror. Carl Jung defined this phenomenon as projection, a psychic mechanism by which we place unconscious contents onto another that we have yet to recognize in ourselves. This process intensifies radically in the presence of figures that activate something essential on our path. And even before we understand why, we find ourselves immersed in an intense emotional field, as if that person carries something that belongs to us, but we had forgotten. We project both light and shadow. That means what we deeply admire, or that which causes us disproportionate discomfort, in the other usually relates to aspects of ourselves that we have yet to integrate. When someone changes everything in our life, it is almost certain that this other person embodies the symbolic contours of our own soul, whether through the animus, the inner masculine in a woman, or anima, the inner feminine in a man. These inner images incarnate in reality to provoke the awakening of who we truly are. These projections are not illusions in the common sense of the word. They are partial and distorted revelations, yet full of meaning. Seeing in the other a savior, a muse, a hero, or even an antagonist is a way for the unconscious to manifest and give us the chance to look within. The problem arises when we remain trapped in projection, expecting the other to live up to the symbolic role we have created for them. This inevitably leads to frustration, for no real person can sustain a symbolic role that belongs to another's inner world. Jung said that projection is both a gift and a trap. It is a gift because it allows the encounter with forgotten parts of the psyche, and a trap because it can imprison us in idealizations or rejections that distort reality. However, when we realize we are projecting, a golden opportunity arises to reclaim these images and begin an integration process. The other stops being merely a target and becomes a portal to our own psychic growth. The presence of someone who intensely activates our emotions, ideas, and dreams is an invitation to individuation. The bond with this person can manifest in various forms: friendship, love, antagonism, fascination, or repulsion. But the essence lies in recognizing that this other is evoking something in us that needs to be lived or acknowledged. That is why such encounters are unforgettable. It is not a matter of mere affinity, but a deep movement of the soul, as if that figure comes to remind us who we are, what we came to seek, and what we are ready to transform. These experiences demand courage. Looking at our projections means admitting that not everything we feel for the other belongs to them. It means understanding that our idealizations and rejections are internal revelations. When we make that shift, the soul expands. We stop seeking in the other what can only be found within, and this change transforms the nature of the relationship. We begin to see the person as they are, with their lights and shadows, instead of trying to mold them to our imagination. The other, when awakening the soul, does not bring ready-made answers but raises questions. They activate layers of desire, fear, creativity, and insecurity. They force us to go beyond the surface, and the more intense this activation, the greater the potential for self-knowledge it carries. These encounters are, in fact, profound exercises in self-mirroring. We are called to see what has always been within us, but needed an other to surface. Therefore, upon meeting someone who changes everything, don't just ask who that person is. Ask, what are they revealing about me? Which part of me has been awakened? Which inner image is asking to be recognized? The soul's activation happens when, instead of losing ourselves in idealization, we decide to dive within to embrace what, through the other, has finally manifested. Few understand that life's most transformative encounters do not serve to complete what is missing, but to reveal what has always lain dormant. Carl Jung called this process individuation, the journey towards psychic wholeness in which the many parts of the psyche are integrated into a conscious, authentic center. When someone emerges and changes everything, it is not only destiny at work, but the soul being summoned to grow. That person's presence is above all a call to begin or deepen the individuation process. In individuation, the individual abandons the attempt to conform to external expectations and begins to heed the soul's internal rhythm. The encounter with the other who catalyzes this change is, therefore, not the end point of a quest, but the starting point of a journey. It is as if that meeting illuminates the personality aspects that need integration, the neglected potentials, ignored shadows, unhealed wounds, and genuine desires stifle. This process is not comfortable. Individuation demands confrontation with the unconscious, with what was repressed or marginalized in the building of the ego. And precisely for this reason, that other often appears wrapped in tension, conflict, or fascination. They represent what must be brought to light, not to become an ideal to be followed, but so that the individual can become whole in themselves. The true turning point occurs when we stop expecting the other to tell us who we are and decide to discover that for ourselves. When this kind of person enters our life, they usually arrive accompanied by profound questions. Who am I beyond my relationships? Which parts of me have lain dormant until now? What is this encounter asking me to transform? These questions have no simple answers, but fuel the individuation journey. It is at this point that the encounter ceases to be merely interpersonal and becomes an initiation, a psychic passage toward authenticity. Many resist this process. They prefer to keep the other as an object of idealization or blame, not realizing that the true purpose of the encounter is not fusion with the other, but reconnection with oneself. The person who transforms us does not save us. They show us that salvation is an internal decision, a commitment to one's own being. And once that path is begun, there is no going back without feeling that something was left behind. Individuation calls us to let die what is not essential. Social masks, worn-out roles, stories that no longer represent us, all begin to crumble when we are touched by an encounter that puts us face to face with our inner truth. The relationship with that person, whether lasting or brief, takes on a symbolic place in the psyche. It represents the rupture with the collective unconscious that tells us who we should be and inaugurates the space to discover who we truly are. In this process, we realize that we no longer need to seek completeness outside ourselves. The soul, once integrated, becomes our source of meaning. The relationship with the other transforms as well. It ceases to be needy attachment or emotional dependence and becomes an exchange between two whole beings, conscious of their lights and shadows, free to grow together or follow different paths. The other then stops being an unconscious mirror and becomes a journey companion, a symbolic ally, a living reminder of who we have become by heeding the soul's call. Individuation is not a fixed destination, but a constant movement. And those who cross our path and shake us to our core are in fact landmarks of this movement. They appear as disguised teachers, messengers of the unconscious, activators of transformation. Refusing the call is to remain in the known. Accepting it is to embark on the grand adventure of becoming oneself, not an ideal but a real, complex whole being. The true gift of these encounters is not found in the other, but in what they awaken within us. And when we choose to walk this path, we are never the same again. We become alchemists of ourselves, gathering the soul's scattered parts to live with depth, presence, and truth. There are encounters that cannot go unnoticed because they do not touch only our mind. They pierce the soul. When a figure appears and changes everything, it is not just chance at work, but a profound summons from the psyche to evolve, integrate, and become whole. As we have seen, synchronicities, inner discomfort, intense projections, and the onset of individuation are clear signs that something greater is moving within us. The journey begins when we accept that the other did not come to fill a void, but to reveal a path. Every emotion awakened, every shadow activated, every repeating symbol is the soul's invitation to awaken. Jung reminds us that by becoming conscious of these signs, we stop being victims of fate and become active participants in our own transformation. If you feel that something is coming or that you are already living this movement, do not run away, dive deeper. The encounter with the other may be the most powerful portal to meeting yourself. Subscribe to the channel, share this video with someone going through a turning point, and click on the suggested content on the screen. It could be the next step on your journey of self-discovery.